Hi everyone, this is the 7th of March 2016. Right 1 week after the budget, we've had one of the strongest rallies for the year. In fact, I think in several years. And the big question on everyone's mind is whether this is the start of something new and that can be run away into a bull run, or this is just a counter trend move. And I think there are mixed views this time around. I don't think there are one-sided opinions on this issue, but definitely most of the media started publishing a lot of the bull market reports naturally because, well, nobody likes bad news all the time. But essentially, I just a few days before the budget published my economic outlook opinion, and I did that with quite some delay because I really wanted to publish it by October, and we were getting a counter trend bounce back, which ended by late October, but stocks continued to hold up all the way to December. So in that time period, we continued to do more work on updating a lot of the long-term debt data points. And what happened in the process is that the RBI took the next step of pushing the cycle forward. So when I was writing that, I was essentially expecting these events to play out. I think over the next year, which means I had my timeline set as I published on the website to October 2016, and I had put that date essentially based on the same time that it took from the top in 2000 to the bottom in 2001. So that's from the tech bubble peak to till 9/11, which was essentially 18 months. And so I just tried to use that same time cycle. If you're doing a similar kind of business cycle, then after the peak that we got at 9119 in 2015, add 18 months to March 2015, and you end up in October. So that was very simple calculation. I've posted all of that on the homepage. And so by the end of 2016, I expected this to complete. I didn't see exactly how, because things had really not moved. The banking sector was still not reporting NPAs, but the RBI went ahead in the quarter before I could even publish that they'd get all the banking sector right of everything. So that's really ticked us right into the deep part of the winter cycle, and so that actually adds confidence to that opinion that we're going to complete this cycle sooner than later. Otherwise, it could have continued to stretch. It's been something that I've focused on ever since we've had the Modi election in 2014. That this cycle needs to complete, and the only optimism that the market was bringing up and could have actually worked its way around was if in some way you inflated the economy, either through fresh spending, fresh monetary measures, and so on. None of which have actually happened because we needed to deal with inflation. So that's what I detailed in that report, that we needed to deal with it, and we've done so. We've actually dealt with inflation, and now we have to deal with debt, and we are doing that actively. So we're essentially doing what I thought we would for the best of quickly reviving the economy. Unfortunately, it's not an easy process, and it's a painful one. Most of the print in general media and the speak that comes out from government essentially is on the side that things are not going to be so bad. But when you actually go through a debt restructuring cycle, a lot of pain has to be taken. The economy also does take some kind of a hit, and which is why this rebound that we've just seen needs to be looked upon as with some degree of skepticism as well. So what we are looking at is that this unwinding process would probably continue for the rest of the year, and in the same time we have various headwinds from around the world also going on simultaneously, where we are looking at interest rates potentially being hiked at some point of time in the US, if not now, maybe by June, but possibly now because markets are in a rebound stage, which with some amount of positive data in the US that gives them some room to actually act now. Why wait? Would be the big question on their mind. If they have to do something, do it while you can. So I think with that thought, when we look at this rally, it's been one of the fastest ones, and essentially unlike even in 2013, after we had the bond market panic, we got a recovery. There were a couple of gaps, but we still moved up pretty smoothly. But it was a fast recovery. I had in fact projected myself in the long short report then that we could go to 6100 from 5200 quickly, and we did. But that became the start of a big move. This time around, the kind of gaps we've got, which is day after day, we have like three opening gaps, two of which are visible on daily charts, and the only time I've seen this kind of consistent gapping was actually at the start of the unwind on the tech bubble. Into the first 2 months, you got a rebound rally with a couple of gap ups. So and that really did not last beyond 2 weeks. So uh, that's the closest comparison. If I really look for the same neck to neck pattern so far, we'll have to actually see what happens in the coming week. But one of the reasons why we got this rebound was essentially the strength in the bond and currency markets that we suddenly got against all the skepticism that we're looking at this write-off process for our own debt, and what impact it would have on our bond markets, because the government needs to continue to spend and actually raise more money. If there's a lot more government debt coming into the market, then it would put pressure on the bond market and then the currency market again. So that pressure seems to have eased off in the short term, but I don't think it's like something that's very permanent. We are going to need to continue to borrow for various reasons. So that pressure would remain, and I wonder if at some point of time the RBI steps in, raises further limits for external bond money to really come in to keep the currency strong and keep this whole situation going on. So it's only stimulus, monetary stimulus, that can actually keep the unwind from happening. Other than that, whatever we are seeing right now might end up being temporary. But as long as it's going on, you need to just watch what is happening, because markets can overshoot from oversold to overbought, because the market did get extremely oversold on various parameters. In fact, in Jan itself, and many others which were not matching up in Jan are now matched up in Feb. So that extreme condition has given us a bounce back. And apart from that, some of the reasons were the stronger dollar and various currency pairs. So in Jan itself, I was expecting a potential bounce back, because you could see that strengthening in various cross currency pairs and in commodities. Many commodity prices, except for crude, were actually holding up at that time itself. You could see prices of lead, zinc move higher, and at the same time various currencies like the AUD, CAD started to get stronger again, including the JPY. So when you had strength, it was the dollar weakening, starting to show up in various pairs, and that led to a rally in most emerging markets. If you look at even Brazil, it bottomed uh, in the month of Jan itself, and it's rallied like over 30% from there. So we were the only market falling all through Feb, very late into the story, and which is why at that time I also kept saying that we are reacting to yesterday's news, because a lot of the panic has already happened in most of these markets. So why are we giving up? And I guess the main reason was domestic, RBI pushing the cycle ahead, saying no, you got to get over this right now. And second is, of course, one of our worst earnings on record. So what does this budget really do in terms of changing the environment on these fronts? Not exactly much, if you ask me. I don't know how you're going to go into a higher growth that trajectory if you're really looking at a tight condition on the fiscal front, which is one of the expectations of the market. So on the one side, while you may have eased immediate bond pressures, what you've not done is you're not really stimulated the economy right away. So that continues to keep economic conditions tight, to put it very simply. And when you have tight economic conditions, your growth rates are going to be flat, and earnings growth, which has not been able to move up, simply because your corporate sector debt limits are way higher than they were 5-6 years ago. They've been rising gradually year after year, both on the domestic and external side. In fact, a lot more on the external side. That pressure continues to have a negative impact on earnings, which is what we saw in this quarter, and which probably, based on all of these factors known now, would just continue into the next year. So what happens to all those projections of double digit earnings growth, I really don't know. We'll see. But my sense is that just like the last 2 years, FY15, FY16, all annual earnings projections went for a toss. The average earnings projections have been scaled down time and again. And in fact, the margin by which they are not met is like huge, because they project 15% growth and you get negative growth. So that's how way off the mark the average projections have been. And probably that kind of trend continues into FY 2017, and most projections are for double digit growth there as well. But there's nothing in this I can't see in this highlight so far how that picture changes unless you get a dramatic change in the global economic outlook, which so far is not showing up very clearly. Or second, if you get some kind of stimulus in the domestic economy, which is also somewhat missing. So you still end up with only pockets of growth based on consumption, inflation related themes, but nothing very broad based. So that will continue to remain an issue, and which is why I think somewhere down the line we'll continue with the debt unwinding, which I've written about, and that would continue to put downward pressure on the market. So it comes down to simply trading, looking at liquidity, trading the market from overbought to oversold conditions. And as and when shocks come in, you get more reactions on the downside to the upside, and that's likely to be the trend I think that we are looking at for the rest of the year. And the highlight that I've been making, we are getting some kind of a commodity rally. We need to watch whether it's sustainable, but definitely in the precious metal space, I think you have a sustainable rally or a turnaround in at least gold. And typically, if gold is moving up, sooner or later you expect silver to do so, which we are seeing now. And but I think if you ask me, the clearest chart is always gold because it has less volatility. Silver tends to react sometimes with the rest of the base metal pack, but essentially gold is indicating that it's bottomed from a four-year bear market, and could have potentially started the next cycle up in terms of its bull market continuing, which whatever started in 2003. So that would be one wave we saw from 2001 into 2011. We've seen a 50% retracement of that, and you started another wave, which would technically mean that you end up at new highs for gold significantly. And if you have a contra opinion, probably look at the retracement levels and see what happens there. But don't rule out the potential bullish case. A lot of people along the way are still doing that. I'm still reading articles saying, "Oh well, this is good now, but this won't work," and that gives me even more confidence that it will, because you never get this kind of negative energy towards complete turnaround, especially when it's serious long term. So people just don't agree, and that's actually positive. So, but if you look at the pattern, when you get an ending diagonal, which is what we saw into December of this year, down to the $1045 mark, an ending diagonal essentially occurs at the end of a trend. So it's a very, very meaningful sign of a potential major turnaround in the trend of that particular security. So you need to pay attention. If it doesn't work out, we can always figure that out later, but pay attention because it could end up being something big. So I think those are the macro trends that we'll continue to watch. I don't think the long-term changes as far as the USD INR is concerned. I have a long-term view that it's been in a bull market since it was 38 all the way in 2008, and became strongly reinforced at 44 at exactly 61% retracement after that first rally. And since then we've been in a bull run for the currency. What you can get is larger corrections, consolidation phases. But essentially, I think the trend remains up. Now, are we into a larger consolidation phase? I think it's a bit early to say that. We've just seen a couple of rupees correction, and such corrections have occurred in the last 2 years, at least twice. And so, at this point of time, it still looks like one of those routine corrections in this low volatility, slowly grinding up move that we've seen in the currency, rupee currency pair, the USD INR so far. And till that changes, till we get more evidence, it really breaks maybe 66, you wouldn't be able to call it a major reversal. And it might just be in a continued slow grind on the way up. But we are seeing that correction, which is helping the market for the time being. But keep watching key levels, which I'll keep highlighting to look for a potential turnaround there, and which should coincide with any market reversal as well. The second one, of course, which I wrote so much about in the economic report, is the final capitulation. When it happens, and someone highlighted to me that, yeah, you're not really, you'll probably call it a capitulation only when you see that bond yield jump. And that's essentially the point. If you look at the chart from Long Wave Group, which I've posted with the economic cycle, and it shows 200 years of US cycles, and if you look at what happened in 1929, it's very, very similar to what we are seeing in our own bond market. The final peak in US equities in the final bubble occurred with an B, and then the turnaround. When it fell, essentially you got the wave C up in interest rates occur and complete with the 1929 to 1932 crash in the US stock market. So that final spike in yields essentially occurred at that point when you got capitulation in equities, and that's essentially very similar to what I've been trying to anticipate here for quite a while, and nothing has changed in terms of the long-term bond trend, because you have higher top and a higher bottom formation still continuing unless you really break below the 7.08% low that we made in 2012. And as long as we are above that, we're making another higher bottom, and whenever the crisis, domestic or otherwise globally, whatever it is, repeats, you'd see that final spike in yields that should help complete the interest rate cycle, which should then coincide with what I'm calling the final stages of the winter cycle, before which we can then get what should be the real bull market, not the fake ones that we've seen since 2009, which is driven by the index, but 80% of the stock market just does not participate. So that's the definition of a bull market. It's not 10%, 20%, 30% advances or declines, but it's really participation, because a bull market essentially means every sector and every part of the market does well, if not in one particular cycle, but over a period of time. Each individual cycle ensures the participation of various sectors over a decade at least, something that was there for a while between 2003 and 2014, but definitely is missing increasingly after 2009, one sector at a time not participating in the move up. So, which is why it's been a bear market cycle, even though we saw new highs in the index, and by that definition, we are still not through with it. And I've highlighted all the factors that we need to be looking for it. So, thank you, and that's all in this video for today.